What's happening, folks? Welcome back to Celtic Fans TV. It is time to look ahead to tomorrow's Europa League clash with Alkmaar. I'm joined by Michael Statham, Dutch football writer and YouTuber. Michael, thanks for taking the time to talk to us tonight.
Thanks, Paul. Thanks for having me.
So I just want to start with a bit of background about AZ Alkmaar. Where are they at just now? They obviously had a good season last year. I think finished third. How do they come into this game tomorrow?
They're coming into it in a pretty poor state of affairs, it must be said. Their squad has had major upheaval. They've lost a lot of players. They've sold quite a few on. Another key player is not fit yet, and the other is wanting to leave the club and hasn't yet. So they're sort of 6 key players down from what they were last season in terms of quality. So coming into this, they're feeling optimistic that they can turn up to Celtic and surprise, but they're not the same team that was competing with Ajax and PSV at the top of the Eredivisie last season.
Hmm. You mentioned that they're optimistic. How was this tie viewed? Because I think in Glasgow, at the time when Celtic exited the Champions League after getting beat by Midtjylland, there was a bit of despondency among the Celtic support that Alkmaar presented a really tough test for us and that we would do well to get by it. Fast forward a couple of weeks though, and we're playing really, really well now. And I think the confidence has gradually gone up amongst the support. But how do you think Alkmaar view this tie? Did they see themselves as favourites here?
I think they see it as quite a closely matched game, really. I think that they last season would have seen this as an opportunity to get a win over Celtic over the 2 legs. And I mean, I'm using the example here of when PSV played Midtjylland and they blew them off the park. I know Midtjylland were missing some key players when they play PSV, but that RZ team was close to that level that PSV showed last season. But since losing all these key players, they've fallen back, and I think we're yet to see just how far back they've fallen. They had a game against RKC Waalwijk at the weekend, and I thought that whilst they created some chances, they weren't the side that would have blown them away last season 3 or 4-1. They lost 1-0, and it was clear to see that they were lacking a bit of a cutting edge. There's a feeling that they're a good bunch of footballers, good touch, good eye for a pass, but they're not great footballers yet. They're a bunch of players with great potential. What they've decided to do is they haven't fully replaced the players that have left. They haven't bought an expensive player to take their place. They've done what Dutch clubs usually do, and that is put faith in the youth. They've either replaced the players with young players in their own academy. RZ have invested heavily in their academy, or they've given their second choice winger, their second choice, whatever position it is, a chance to impress in the first team. And that's their way forwards, they think. And I think it's going to be a transitional season for RZ this time around. And we won't be seeing the high quality side that we saw last season. They're missing the creative spark. And all over the pitch, there's a core player missing, really.
They come to Celtic Park tomorrow, of course, on a European night. Only the third full stadium, if you like, back since the COVID restrictions. The atmosphere is likely to be at its best. How do you think they'll approach this game? Do you think they'll come and set up and play pretty expansively and try and attack, or do you think they'll sit back?
I can't see them sitting back because it's not the Dutch way. And if they do start sitting back, it's purely out of worry and concern and natural instinct, because I think the players are going to find the atmosphere very hard. They've got a couple of players who are very experienced and can handle that kind of occasion. Bruno Martins Indy springs to mind, the former Stoke defender, excellent defender. But he is not surrounded by too many players of that ilk. And there are a lot of young players who won't have experienced that kind of atmosphere before. And I know that Celtic Park's going to be raucous when they do play. And that might be telling over the 2 legs, that home atmosphere. I really do think that because it's been so long, it will make a difference in this. To go further with what I mean, the young players have played like Ajax away, and Ajax is a massive stadium. They play Feyenoord away. De Kuip is probably the best atmosphere in the Netherlands, but it's not the same as going abroad and being out of your comfort zone and playing in Scotland. I think that might be telling. Or we'll see these young players take like a duck to water, and they'll play some really good football, and they might surprise and win the match. I personally don't see that second one happening at the moment.
Okay. You've mentioned a lot about young players there in terms of the way that they're trying to replace the big players they've lost in the summer. Is the profile of the team generally pretty young?
Yeah, on the whole, certainly very young. They've got an experienced centre-back pairing, but the goalkeeper has been signed just in time to play this match. He's 23, just coming from Denmark. So he's trained a day with the team and he expects to start the match.
Sounds like Sam Celtic would do that.
Their right back is a second choice right back from last season. Left back Owen Wijndal, who was with the Netherlands squad. He won't be fit for the tie, so he's going to be replaced by either a midfielder playing there or a new signing who might fill in at that position, who's normally a right back. Into midfield, Turncoat Miners is their star player. He is expected to now play the game. I didn't think that a couple of days ago, but he is likely to now come in. He's the captain of the club, but is going to leave at the end of a transfer window. Given the lack of players they've got to throw him in. And he on his day is a fantastic midfielder, can create so much from deep.
So is it the speculation that's caused him to miss out recently, or has he been injured? Is it
definitely the first one? Like I say, at the weekend, he didn't start the match because the manager Pascal Janssen said he only wants 11 players who are interested in playing for the club to play the match. He came off the bench though when they were desperate and seeking a goal, which was interesting. So him in midfield is going to be really important for me. And it's in attack where they've got a lot of young players and players who aren't normally their first choice. I'll give you another example. Jesper Karlsson, he's suspended, and he's the one who can create something from nothing, who's actually stayed at the club. So I think that, I'm talking very pessimistically here about RZ. I do think they're a good football team. They can play some great stuff. But despite their pre-season results, which are quite encouraging, I don't see how they're going to suddenly turn up at Celtic and win the game tomorrow.
Yeah. Is there any other danger men you think could really hurt Celtic tomorrow?
In terms of ones that could really hurt, I don't think so. I mean, I'd be surprised if Danny de Wit doesn't play. He's a good attacking midfielder with the Netherlands under 21s. But they often come in for criticism, their forward players, because they come in to try and replace the likes of Calvin Stengs, who've left the club, and they've not been able to do so yet. I suppose another one I could point out is Vangelis Pavlidis. I think he was linked with Celtic a year or so ago. He's a striker that's just signed from Willem II, but didn't get a full 90 minutes in the RKC Waalwijk Eredivisie game. So has he been rested? Like fellow midfielder Frederick Mizio? I don't think so. I think that he hasn't quite yet got up to the standards to start for the club. But if he plays, he will be a different outlet for them rather than just someone who's young, full of tricks and quick. Because Pavlidis is something a bit different. Someone who I think could hurt Celtic, perhaps. But I did hear that maybe some pace in the counter-attack might be a way to get around the Celtic defence.
Yeah, at the minute we're playing pretty expansively, pretty openly, and we have looked vulnerable at times on the counter attack. Tomorrow is obviously the first leg, so the tie won't be decided. What awaits us when we go over to Holland? How are the restrictions at the minute? Is it full stadiums? How is the atmosphere at Alkmaar? Is it usually quite intense? Like, what kind of game can we expect next week?
At the moment, stadiums are 2/3 full in the Netherlands, so there won't be a full stadium for the return. But the atmosphere will be good. They'll be happy to be back in the stadium. As it turns out, it will be their first game back at home of the full season because they haven't had a home league game yet, and their game in between the legs is being postponed to actually help RZ prepare and to give extra time, because that's what the Dutch FA sometimes do. For clubs. Whether that makes a difference, we'll have to wait and see. But as for the atmosphere itself, I've been to RZ Stadium, and whilst I don't count myself as a fan, I got the shirt. I like the club. I think they're a great club. I don't find the atmosphere to be cutting edge. I don't think it's one of the strongest in the Netherlands. They'll be up for the tie, but it's not what you would call overwhelming, like I think Celtic might be.
Yeah, hopefully, from my point of view. We've talked about danger men. What are the weaknesses that Celtic can exploit tomorrow night?
I think it's purely the lack of experience. If they can get on top of RZ and make it an intense game, one that they will find very physical, I think that that's going to be tricky for the players to handle because they won't have faced too many ties like it before. And the key players that have left the squad, we're yet to see the full extent of what they're missing. So I think if they can lay it on thick with how much they attack, I think that RZ might find that quite tricky. But we'll see what they can handle up front as well, because RZ, whilst they've got this, there's some really good footballers. We don't know how they're going to do without Myron Boadu, who's their key striker. He's gone to France. I don't think they're going to create very much if they are allowed the ball, which RZ try and do in Eredivisie matches when they play lower ranked sides. I think playing the counter attack might suit them though. When they play Celtic, who I think will have more of the ball.
Can you give us a prediction before we round up?
I mean, like, there's part of me that thinks RZ can surprise and go back to what we saw last season, because Pascal Jansson's a good coach, and come the end of the season, he's going to get this RZ team fit and firing. That if the Celtic ever come across them again, I think they'll go, oh, this is a tricky match. And if they'd be playing PSV instead, I think Celtic would have a lot more to worry about. At the moment, though, it's a bit in transition. And I think that the game tomorrow is going to go poorly for RZ. I think that when they play the home match, they might have more of a chance, but I think it'll be too late by then. I'm actually going to go 3-1 Celtic.
Excellent. Michael, thanks very much for your insight and for your time tonight. Much appreciated. Where can these people find you as well? Where can we find you?
I'm Michael Statham, and I'm part of two people that run football@anja.com. I do basically Dutch football in the English language. So that is the Dutch League, but also the Dutch national team. So anything Dutch football in the English language, you can come and see us. It's football@anja. Football spelled the same as it is English. And Oranje is orange, but without a G, you put a J.
Excellent. Thanks, Michael. Cheers.
Thank you.